Hello, good morning, everyone. Have a great start of the reinvent. And really, hopefully, this will be a great week for everyone, and we are ready to start the reinvent together. First of all, I introduce myself. I'm Giulia Rossi. I lead digital innovation for South Europe, and I'm really, really happy to be with you today and share with you a little bit of behind the scene of how Amazon innovates. What are the mechanisms that Amazon is using to create all the products, all the services that you might see, all the different services of AWS? And hopefully, that will be a session that is of inspiration for you to also apply some of these mechanisms to your own project and in your own companies. So let me first start with a question. At Amazon, we say it's always day one. Can anyone guess what day one means? Please tell me, what do you think day one is? Please. Every day we learn something new. What is the concept of day one? Can someone share, please? Anyone else? So in 1997, Andy Jassy and Jeff Bezos started writing the first letter to the shareholders. And they were calling out the concept of day one mentality as one of the first and main mechanisms of driving innovation inside Amazon. You can call that out and look at that on Amazon.com. But let me share a little bit of what day one mentality means. Mainly, there are many different aspects to the day one mentality. But let me call out three main things. First of all, customer obsession. Create a capacity inside your organization to continuously listen to the customer and be able to reinvent many times, not for the short term, but for the long term. So be able to capture that needs and that desire of your customers in order to be able to be relevant for a longer period of time. Second part, create a capability inside of your organization to take decisions quickly. Not only to listen to your customer, but also enable your employees, your colleagues, to take decisions in every part of the flow of the decision process to remain coherent to what the customer wants. And we all know that we are in our companies, most of the time we need to compromise with internal processes and all the different decision process that we have inside the organization. How do we remain coherent in a rapid way to actually take high velocity and high quality decisions for our customers? And then the third element, how do we keep experimenting? Create a capability where everyone is free to experiment. But what do we mean with this concept of experimentation? Be bold when you innovate. It's very important not to be afraid of failing. Failing, considering that as a part of a learning possibility to also be relevant for the customer in the long term. So this capability to actually remain bold when you innovate on behalf of the customer is the concept of continuous experimentation. And you can do your business model and your innovation in many different ways. Here we're not saying that this is the only way to drive innovation or the best way. This is something that we have learned through the years, and we have kept and continuously improving to actually create mechanisms to drive that inside our organization in a continuous, distributed, and consistent way. And Jeff Bezos says many times, you can innovate based on business model, you can innovate focusing on one single technology, or you can innovate based on looking at what competitors do. But these things change. What your competitors are going to do is going to change. Technology is going to evolve. In the same letter to the shareholders, 1997, there is an amazing quote that I always mention. Customers are always beautifully and wonderfully dissatisfied, even if the business is great. And some of you are already smiling. The capability to insist on the highest standard on the customer experience for the customer, it's the only mechanism where then you can work backwards and remain relevant for that customer. So at Amazon, we have chosen to focus our business model on consistent innovate on behalf of the customer and remain focused on that. So as I said before, this is, pretty much something that we all understand. Raise the hand who doesn't want to be customer-focused. Raise the hand who want to be customer-focused. So we all here, and of course, we say it's always day one. This is an important element where we actually concentrate on focusing on the customer. But then, if the what is pretty much, we all agree on that, how about the how? How do we actually do that? How do we create a mechanism that is consistent, repetitive, and distributed inside our organization to continue keeping that day one mentality? So day one, at the end, means be nimble, be curious, continuous experimentation, and always listen, invent, and reiterate on behalf of the customer for a continuous amount of time, and create mechanism inside your organization when everyone can feel free to do that. Everyone can take this decision in a fast way, in a rapid way for the customer. The other risk, and you were mentioning that, you were seeing that before, is the dropping and moving into what we consider the day two mentality. What is worst of being irrelevant? If you are irrelevant for your customer, where is the business going? How can you continue, be relevant and continue experiment for the customer? That is the risk of moving into a day two moment. Day two, as Jeff says, is stasis, is irrelevance. Moving into a moment in which you are not relevant anymore for your customer and, guess knows where the business is going. But let me go a little bit into the 3 steps of the how to move and how to create in your company a day one mentality. First of all, let's start from the customer obsession. Amazon's mission is to be the earth's most customer-centric company. This mission is very bold, and it might seem very open and very broad. How do you create a mechanism where you can remain relevant for the customer? And when you say being the most customer-centric company, this mission is very broad, but it's also very specific, because all our Amazon employees have one decision to take, and they need to ask ourselves always a question: what is the best thing for our customers? And it's simple when you need to take decision in a small company. Okay, what is the best thing for our customers? And then take decision based on that. But the big challenge is not to become customer-centric. It's to remain customer-centric. When your organization grows, how can you create a mechanism? Can you create a continuous flywheel to actually take decision and truly say, I'm doing that because it's the best thing for our customers? Can all of you say that when you take decision, you always take decision based on what is the best thing for your customers? Or sometimes we need to compromise? So how do we create mechanism? Jeff Bezos always says an amazing thing that I love. Good intention don't work. We all want to be customer-centric. How do you create a mechanism? And one of the main mechanisms that in Amazon we drive is called working backwards. And working backwards is a great mentality because when you focus on the customer and you listen to their needs, you then try to invent on their behalf working backwards from that need. This means a mental model that moves you away from any concept about the resources you have in a specific moment, the capability that you think you have in the company, limitation of time, limitation of what your company is doing in a particular moment. If you look obsessively and constantly at what the customer needs and what are needs that are constant in time, and you keep pumping energy to that, then you can innovate on many different business lines. So this mentality sets you away from limitation. Okay, yeah, my company maybe works on, it's on the media side, or my company, it's a manufacturer. Look at what the customer wants and be able to reiterate and redesign your business model. That is the concept of being and embracing a concept of always day one. And then when you do that, and when you analyze with these needs, and then we will see which are these type of needs that we need to analyze, we actually need to consider what type of need am I gonna focus on? I need to focus on needs that are stable in time. durable in time, not something that might be relevant for 2 months or 3 months. How can I identify the needs that are stable in time for my customers? There is only one way. Empathize with your customer. Look at them. Think about what they do every day. Design their customer journey. Think about that lady, that man that wakes up every day, and what are they doing now? What is an area where there is a gap that you can actually create something that will improve their lives? And that is this concept about empathization. And as I said, maybe you know there are many different ways of doing innovation. You can create personas. You can do many different things. But the main concept is empathize with your customer. Amazon has many different products. Some of you might think, how come Amazon, went and started from the e-commerce, then built AWS, then devices, streaming content, and, Alexa, Kindle. Don't make me list all the products that Amazon has created, but why? And how have we understood that we could be relevant in that particular industry? It didn't start from a preconceived strategy. It started from looking at what the customer evolution of behavior was and trying to continue to be relevant on that one. It's very important, this part, because it's not about creating a stable strategy that might be the same for the next 3 to 5 years. It's a continuous redesign of that business model. And then some of these products we might have actually decided to do because it's right to do. The Amazon, the climate pledge and our commitment to sustainability, to be zero net carbon by 2040, pretty much 10 years before the Paris Agreement. Sometimes you do that because you listen to the customer and you understand where you want to be relevant. Sometimes because it's right to do that. And also try to, and not be afraid to be misunderstood for a big, long time. I'll tell you the story of AWS, and maybe some of you know the story of the Kindle. When we launched the Kindle in 1997, we were a software company. Believe me, we had no idea how to build an hardware. And maybe some of you might remember the first version of the Kindle, that piece of hardware big like this with a roll that showed that we had actually no idea how to build an hardware. But we wanted to innovate on that part because actually we understood that there was a possibility. And I'll tell you a bit more in a bit. So you need to understand what is the need that is stable in time. And then create a flywheel for your business model. Think about Amazon. What are the customer needs we are keeping pumping energy into? Price, selection, and convenience. Do you think that some of our customers, you, me, all of us buy on Amazon.com, have you ever thought of saying, hey, I wish that device will cost a bit more, a bit much? Or I wish we have a bit less selection into Amazon.com. That's a price, convenience, selection are needs that are stable. It's something that will never change. Or at AWS, I wish AWS would be a bit less secure. Or I wish AWS will have a bit less selection. When you understand this part and you create a purpose, a value proposition of differentiation towards your customers. And then you create a flywheel on how to do that. But the most difficult part is to listen to your customer, understand that 3, and you see there are 3, not more than 3, elements that would differentiate your product and your value proposition towards the customer, and then create the flywheel. Just an example. At Amazon, we actually decided to focus and start on the customer experience when you buy on Amazon.com. And then the customer experience, the more we improve the customer experience, that would drive more traffic into the platform. If we drive more traffic, we can attract more sellers. If we attract more sellers, what will happen? Improve selection of products. And when we do that and we have more selection, we can scale more. And if you think that we can scale more, we can also reduce prices. And that is a concept of flywheel that we can continuously create, but still remain focused and have the objective on price, selection, and convenience. And this is the same thing as AWS. Can someone maybe ask to improve the prices of some of our products? AWS have done 119 price reductions since 2006. We improved the number of features. How many partners we have, how many regions we've launched. As the region we've launched in Spain, in Israel, in Switzerland, in Australia this year. We improved the capacity and availability zone. These are elements that we continuously pump energy into. And this is the differentiation element of AWS. Let me go to the next part. When we have all understood that we need to focus on our customers, how then we can take high quality and high velocity decision. We said that we need to create inside the company capability for people to take decisions based on our customers, and then to take consistent way and a mechanism to take decision all the way through all the process of the decision making. It's not about only ideating. It's about continuously remain focused on the customer for all the process. How do we do that? Amazon is based on 16 leadership principles. Some of you might have heard about that. They all start with customer obsession and finish with deliver results. What are they? And maybe some of you might ask, how come 16 leadership principles? I mean, maybe in your company there are 1, 2, maximum 3 leadership principles. Why 16 leadership principles? Because the 16 leadership principles are a common language. Think that they are, let's say, the coin exchange between people in Amazon. Why? Because in a company that is growing so fast, the capability to understand quickly what another person means, and there are some of my colleagues over there, and I might go to Samira and say, hey, Samira, I think here we need to apply more bias for action. And she might come back to me and say, hey, Giuliano, I think we need to insist on the highest standard here. If we both understand what applying bias for action means and what insist on the highest standard mean, I might have never worked with Samira, but in a few seconds, we actually can take a decision on a particular environment. So the leadership principles are actually a way to understand each other and to take decision in a quicker way. This is very important in a company, that started from, in a small way, and actually now it's growing a lot. So the leadership principles are the same. If you go and start talking with people in Italy, then, or in Spain, or in Singapore, or in Malaysia, everywhere in the world, we have the same leadership principles. And people are trained to embrace these leadership principles. And there are actually way in which you can demonstrate the leadership principles. People are promoted based on the leadership principle. People have their analysis on performances based on how they demonstrate the leadership principle. And let me tell you a bit of behind the scene. I promised you I would share a bit of stories of behind the scene of Amazon. How do we demonstrate customer obsession, or what are the things that we do? It's a curiosity. Most of the time, when we start a meeting, we leave an empty chair. Can you guess who this empty chair is for? It's for the customer. Most of the time, when we take a decision, we don't take into consideration the most important person. It's not us. It's not fighting between different parts of the organization. It's not the problem of not invented here. It's my idea, your idea, all together. Who do we need to improve the life to? Who is the person we need to make their life better? The customer. So let's leave an empty chair. And sometime I also have a pillow with written customer, just in case people want to sit over there. I have a pillow with written customer on top. Another thing, another leadership principles, invent and simplify. We're not saying that we need to embrace all these new mentalities, straight ahead and let's go for it and let's build a big product. Sometimes, there is a concept of starting small and scale fast. Start small with, a minimum concept and then understand how the customer is reacting. Yes, we listen to the customer. We work backwards from the customer need, but yet, we need to increase the possibility that we are building the right thing for the customer. Let's not, we don't always have the 100% of the data we wish to have. So what do we do that in this case? We apply invent and simplify and create a concept of minimum lovable product. How many of you have heard of the concept of minimum viable product? Raise your hand. How many of you has heard of the concept of minimum lovable product before? Some of you has. What's the difference between a minimum viable product and a minimum lovable product? Viability, guys and girls, we can mostly give it for granted. How many features and how many price reduction and feature increase? Many things now are viable. This is not the concept. The minimum lovable product is a minimum product that your customer would love. So when you start planning your agile and you start from the first sprint, let's not start from the feature that is more easy to do and easy to build. Let's start from a feature that is most relevant for your customer. Yes, maybe the first sprint might take a little bit longer. I agree with you, because that feature might be more difficult. But you can already build a product still already from the first sprint that you can launch to the market and then gather feedback from your customers. And then the second sprint is actually something that will already include the customer feedback. So your second sprint will also be more strong in terms of data that you have on what your customer would want. And as I was mentioning before, I promised I would mention the first version of the Kindle. If you go into the day one, it's the main building in Seattle. It's actually called day one, as day one mentality. You will see in the main reception the 14 new version of the Kindles that have been built. Why? As a monitor of invent and simplify. The first version of the Kindle was the one on my right, your left. A piece of hardware like this with a role quite far from the customer experience we use now. But it had to verify the mission we had. So we had to create a mission which was books everywhere in the world in 60 seconds. And then, based on that vision, we had to verify that vision quickly in the market. So we built that thing. I said we had no idea how to build an hardware. Probably that shows, but let's accept it for now, okay? So we launched that thing, that was a great product, on the market. And then we started reiterating on the agile. So the working backwards is a process that goes before an implementation in agile. 2 weeks ago, we actually launched the new version of the Kindle. So actually now we are on 15 version of the Kindle, the one, the Scribble, the one you can also write on top. And that is the concept of invent and simplify. Another leadership principle that some of the guys here knows me, bias for action is probably the leadership principle that is closest to my heart. Someone says yes. But what does bias for action mean? It doesn't mean to take decisions too quickly. We teach our leaders to take decisions as soon as they have 70% of the data they wish to have, not 30% of the data, not 90% of the data. Why? Because if you focus on 30% of the data, you already started the agile, and then you might risk to go into the process of the minimum viable product, rather than the minimum lovable product, or 90% of the data. Let's continue with the business analysis and listening to the customer for a huge amount of time. 90% of the data might have the risk of the analysis paralysis. So let's consider the 70% of the data we wish to have to actually take a decision and apply a mental model that dog is really nice. I really love when we have this picture on the screen. We need to apply a decision-making that is called one-way or two-way door type of decision. Let me explain that a little bit better. A one-way door type of decision, it's a type of decision where you can walk on the other side of the door and the door closes behind you. It's a one-way. This decision is irreparable. The consequences of taking that decision, it's totally irreparable for your business. Truly, how many decisions are truly irreparable? 1, 2. For Amazon, it could be it could be build a huge fulfillment center. It could be launching a region, investing on a data center. But most of the decisions that we take in terms of creating a product or a service, there are two-way door type of decision. You walk on the other side of the door, there is a dog waiting for you, and then the customer, you start talking to the customer with your minimum lovable product, and in case you can go back. Why? Because you can learn from the first minimum lovable product and understand, okay, do I scale and then continue reiterating like the Kindle, or do I go back? But how do you embrace a concept of two-way door type of decision? If you reduce as much as possible the concept of the first product that you build, because I see many different companies that the first minimum lovable product has a huge investment. You don't need a huge investment to create the first version of the Kindle. When you create the first version of the product, please do me a favor from the heart. Have in mind the first version of the Kindle. That version didn't cost that much because it's a two-way door type of decision. You need to verify your vision and understand, do I scale and then I continue invest, or do I come back? And if I do that, I embrace the concept of accepting the possibility that that product actually might fail. There is Ari Lavin that says, for once I'm not quoting Andy Jassy or Jeff Bezos. Andy Lavin says one interesting point. Fall in love with the problem, don't fall in love with the product. I know that every product that we build is like our baby. I do the same. But it's the concept of falling in love with the problem we actually want to be relevant on, not fall in love with the product. Because the product might fail. And failure, as Andy was saying, it's failure and invention are inseparable twins. Why? Because if you are experimenting and you already know it's going to work, it's not an experimentation. You cannot know it's going to work from the beginning. You need, in fact, to actually create your minimum lovable product and see if that works. And in case, come back. And in case, avoid to launching that product. Can you raise the hand who remember about the Amazon Fire Phone? Can you raise the hand who has a Fire Phone now? I still have to find that person that bought a Fire Phone. The Fire Phone has been one of the biggest opportunity of learning that Amazon had. I promised a bit of the behind the scene. 180 million investment, and we had built a few devices. So actually, the reduction of the risk of innovating in that case was a little bit blur. But as soon as we decided that it was a two-way door type of decision, we went back from the other side of the door, and you know what happened? That the people that was working on the Fire Phone had learned a lot about voice, about hardware, about how customers want to interact with the voice and with the hardware. Can you guess what other product they've been thinking of? Say that again? Yes. So not many people know that the core team that was working on the Fire Phone actually, as soon as we understood it was a two-way door decision, 6 months after launching that product, without indulgence, that team was moved to think about another new product that was Alexa, the first version of Echo. I still have goosebumps when I think about this. But imagine what would have happened if we would have insisted a lot in continuously thinking, no, I want that product, and keep pumping marketing, keep pumping energy into that, with a product that probably was not relevant, as was not solving a customer problem at the moment. And this is the concept of embracing failure, which is a little bit different than celebrating failure, okay? It's not about failing fast. It's about understanding what are the customer needs to be right in the long term, which is quite different from, yes, I can fail fast. I need to apply a working backwards process so that I actually can focus on the needs that are going to be stable in time. Yes, in the journey, I can not get it right the first time, but at the end of the journey, I'm going to solve that customer need. I'm going to be relevant for the customer need when I identify that. And this is the main concept. So how do we actually then become experimental and disruptive? I said I would go on the 3 concepts of the day one mentality, and we went through how to become customer obsessed, what are the concepts of the customer obsession. The second one, what are the tools to take high velocity and high quality decision. Let me go to the third one. How can we become experimental and disruptive? Many different ways we actually do a lot of brainstorming. Many different times we actually concentrate on and try and ask our team to concentrate on the customer a lot and just say, look, guys, girls, we need to concentrate on the customer. And then we look at each other and say, OK, I think I'm already doing that. OK, try harder. It's not a matter of trying harder. It's a matter of giving people tools, mechanisms, in order to do that, in order to listen to the customer and then remain coherent with what we find out from the customer. So in Amazon, we have a lot of mechanisms. Working backwards is one of them. And working backwards on these mechanisms are a way in which people inside Amazon not only create ideas, but also drive the execution of the product itself or of the initiative itself. So a mechanism is consisting of 3 elements. The first one, tools that people can use. In this case, if we think about the working backwards, tools that help people to remain coherent with the customer. 2, mechanism of adoption. I have tools, how do I make people use that tools? And then inspection. How can I actually check that people are using this mechanism, and these mechanism and these tools, are useful for driving customer obsessed products. And these are the tools, the mechanism of adoption and inspection of the working backwards. Don't please laugh now, because I'm going to share with you something that is the core mechanism of the working backwards. And it's sort of invert all a different mental model that we have. Usually what happens? We start building a product, we might get it all working, and then we throw it to the marketing department and say, hey guys, here's what we build, launch it to the market. Well, in Amazon, we invert this process. Before building a product, before writing 1 line of code, your time is precious. The time of our developers, of the people that actually are going to write line of codes, it's very precious. How can I make sure that I invest this time on the right thing? So before building anything, actually I gather a team to write a press release. So to write already a newspaper article, already for my customers, that is already describing what I'm going to build. Why am I going to do that? Because I need to discover what do I put in the minimum lovable product. Stay with me on this concept a little bit. If I build something and I already write a line of codes, and then I launch it, and then it's not what the customer wants, your and the developer's time is going to be invested, maybe in a non-efficient way. But what if, and I invite all of you to actually do that and try this mental model, before you write something, you jump into the future. Think about you're already in 6 months' time or 8 months' time. And then you're writing a newspaper article for my customer, John Watson, and John is actually going to love your product. We want John to read the newspaper article and think, wow, that is exactly the product I want. Based on the wow effect of John, you're going to prioritize which feature you're going to build. So we use this concept of writing a press release. And it's not about, but the marketing will write the press release. It's a team made of IT, developers, business, marketing, people all together that write this newspaper article. And it's a very powerful way, because most of the time what happens? You build something, and then you need to convince other people that what you are building is the right thing for the customer. But think if you assess this risk before. Think if you gather marketing, business, IT before and say, OK, what are the features that would make my customer fall in love with the product? Let's agree all together before. And then based on that prioritization, you actually start your agile process. Isn't that more powerful? Why? Because everyone is then aligned, and you drive this concept of democratized innovation. So when everyone is aligned on what your product should do, then you can launch the product much quicker. You don't have to convince other people. In fact, it's the press release, and then there are other two tools of the working backwards, which are press release, frequently asked questions, and visuals. So every product and every service of Amazon had a press release written with a frequently asked question and visual attached to it. The press release, it's an internal document. The press release never goes out to the market. The press release is just a tool that people use to drive alignment and to make sure that we're building the right thing for our customers. We can never have the 100%, but in this way, it's a way in which you actually gather data. I told you, I'm going to tell you a bit of stories. Amazon Prime was built from a guy that was working in a fulfillment center. That guy had to start writing a press release to think about what this product would look like. Andy Jassy, probably you might have heard of his name, had the first idea of AWS. He had to write a press release on what would be the value proposition of AWS. Do you know that press release, how many times was rewritten, the Andy Jassy press release? They say 43 times. I don't know if it was 43, 45, 46, or 39, OK? So please bear with me on that number, OK? But the concept is that the press release, it's a way to drive alignment. It's a way to drive specificity on what do I need to do. And everyone inside an organization has to write a press release if they want their product or their initiative to move forward. Even if we need to book or we need to build a solution to book rooms in a better way, your boss, your leader will go and say, have you written a press release? Have you written a narrative on it? So narratives, papers are, together with the leadership principle, again, the coin to actually take decision quickly inside Amazon. In Amazon, you know that we never do PowerPoints. We never use a presentation. And weirdly enough, I'm talking to you based on a presentation, but narratives, documents are the trick. And you want to know why? A bit of story of Jeff Bezos. We have a bit of time. This story of why we don't use PowerPoint goes to the time when there was a guy who wanted to propose a product to Jeff, and he was starting doing a presentation. Of course, the guy was a bit emotional on that moment, you know, like, you're making a presentation on a product to Jeff Bezos. So that guy was a little bit not confident, bubbling a little bit. So Jeff said, can you pause a moment here? Forget about the presentation. And he was seeing this guy continuously looking at his notes to making sure that he was saying the right thing. So Jeff said, OK, let's pause the presentation. Give me that note. Your notes are the most important things, not the great presentation, not what is in the screen. But the notes have the content on why that product was a need to be made. I don't know what product was. I don't know. I think that product was approved. But the concept is on the mechanism to take the decision. And it was going into the details, and writing is the tool. Writing is the way to drive alignment. Writing is the way to dive deep on why you need to build a product. And as you can see, this is not something that you build alone. I can start writing a press release, and then I go to my colleague Siggy and say, hey, please, can you look at this press release? And then Siggy will look at the press release, and in a constructive, disruptive way, would actually make a lot of questions on my idea, on my product, to destroy it, but in a constructive way, that product. And what are these? The frequently asked questions. In all our MBA, project works, and management courses, we have studied the concept of the business model canvas. In Amazon, we use the frequently asked questions. Why? Because in addition to the boxes of the business model canvas, when you ask a question on his product, and vice versa, I can ask a lot of questions on your product, you can go in much more details than just the boxes of the business model canvas. So if the press release, as I was saying before, is a one-page document, because the press release is a newspaper article, so need to be very concise and specific, the frequently asked question instead could be a 5-pager, 6-pagers. And it's a document where you actually dive deep on why this product should be built. And you ask questions like, okay, if the product breaks, who does the customer call? What is the customer support? Right, an internal question. What are the technology that I need? What are the features that I need to build this product? What is the supply chain? Do I need partners? All these type of questions are part of the frequently asked questions. So you can see that you go in much deeper details on that product. So you have a vision, which is the press release. You have a frequently asked question that is, I would say, the business model canvas done in form of questions. And then you have a third asset that are the visuals. The visuals is the customer experience to be, the customer journey to be. When you design let me go back 1 second. When you design exactly in details, what will be the customer experience? As I said, every product and every service of Amazon and AWS has these 3 tools and assets attached to it. Press release, frequently asked question, and visuals. Once they are done, and once you have a consistent way in which they are done, then you start with the agile. And you can see how the working backwards then goes before the agile. And I said, driving to a bit of a takeaways and conclusion of this speech, the press release is not something that can be built by only one person. The press release is built by a group of people. Please don't laugh. You might have recognized my accent, okay? I'm Italian. You might have recognized that, huh? We call the team that builds and writes the press release the 2-pizza team. I promise I didn't build myself this name, okay? And probably on the screen they're not even pizzas, but let's not go that way. So a 2-pizza team is actually a team that can be fed with not more than 2 huge American salty cakes. They're salty cakes, they're not pizzas. And this concept of the 2-pizza team, it's a team, I would say, of 7 to 10 people that while eating the pizza, they're actually writing the press release, writing the FAQ, writing the visuals. So this is a concept to drive inclusion and diversity. And please stay with me and agree with me that here we talk about inclusion and diversity on mentality and point of view. Because gathering a team to work on a product and be the voice of the customer, everyone adds value into that. Each of you and each person of the 2-pizza team is able to bring on the table a different perspective. Another thing that he or she might have seen regarding that particular business initiative. So that enriches a lot what you're actually building for the customer. And you have a tool to make everyone agree on the table on what is the best thing for the customer. And this team, while eating the pizza, has also decentralized authority. What it means that this team is not just there and having fun and putting a lot of post-it on the wall, is writing a press release. But the nice thing is that that team, if the press release is moving forward, is going to have the responsibility to build that product. And going to have the responsibility to launch that product. So this team is going to move away from what they're doing in a specific moment and then quickly do this product. And if this product scale, this team will actually be moved to be the core team of launching the product and dedicate on that specific product initiative or business challenge that we're going to build. This concept empowers the people as well. So they're not just there to do an exercise. They're not just there to have fun and, yeah, we're writing a press release. I remember one of my leaders inside Amazon when once I was going to propose a product, or I was seeing, there was an opportunity, and she looked at me and she replied, if you find a problem, you own it. If you find a problem, it's your problem. And some people would say, no, but I don't work there. No. If you find a problem, it's your problem. Doesn't matter which area you build, which area you work on. You gather a team, and all together with that team, you order 2 huge American pizzas, and you start writing a press release on the solution. And that's a concept of ownership that was another of the leadership principles we have. Because maybe you're building the next Amazon Prime. Maybe you're building the next Alexa. Maybe you don't know. You're building the next Kindle. And that product might actually do a huge difference for our customers. So let me wrap up with a few concepts. How do you drive a day one mentality in your company? First, build a capacity where your employees, your colleagues, can be the voice of the customer. Listen to durable customer needs that you can identify through empathizing with the customer. Build the capability to do that not in the short term, but in a continuous amount of time. Number 2, create mechanism where people can remain coherent to what you're actually looking at. You are identifying a problem, you own that problem, and you can help your company take a decision for that opportunity that might actually change your company, that can create a totally different business line that actually, change the history of your company immensely. Number 3, create mechanism. Whatever are the tools, whatever are the instruments that you're going to use, I like to say that innovation is both an art and a science. It's not about, creating things or ideating. It's a science. It's something that has a structure where you can, with your 2-pizza team, build the product until the end. And Jeff, I had to finish with a quote of Jeff. This one is related to the letter to the shareholders of 2021. The last one he wrote, keep inventing. Don't despair when at first your idea looks crazy. Keep wondering, keep being curious. It's always day one. And guys and girls, you are the leaders. You are the one that can help your company embracing this mentality inside your organization and have this mentality of a small organization in a big organization independently on the size of your company. So I want to finish saying it's always day one, and it's the day one of the reinvent. So thank you. Hopefully you will enjoy all the week and this conversation together. Thanks a lot. We have a couple of sessions as well today with the innovation team. So we have another session at 1:45 on the 2-pizza team, so how to build a 2-pizza team. We have other session, or if you want to touch with your hand what is the concept of the working backwards. We have intro to working backwards on Tuesday and on Thursday again. So I will invite you to, of course, stay on intro to working backwards, where actually you can apply how to write press release in your own companies, and an amazing speech from Daniel Slater here exactly in this room at 1:45 on how to build a 2-pizza team. So hopefully you will enjoy all the session, and you will have enjoyed also this one. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.